Legend Sound Pack. So I think you've all downloaded the 8-bit Legend Sound Pack, which has a lot of, just like really fun kind of like video game inspired sounds. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of like work through to basically how you would create your own first song. So what I was testing out earlier was just an example of what that might sound like. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually start from the very beginning now. So let me get this window out of my way so I can actually see what's happening. On your iPad, the app that you are looking for, actually, let me just go in and quick turn on my accessibility pointer. So what you can do is you can basically, oh, that didn't seem to turn on, did it? So what we're going to do is you want to look for the app on your iPad that is the orange and red square that is the guitar. And what I want you to do is I want you to press and hold it for a second. And when you press and hold that app, you'll notice that a number of menu options pop up for you. So what I want you to do, press and hold and look for the one that says create new track song. It's the last one listed. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. And that's going to launch you into the GarageBand sound library. So whenever you're writing a song, the first thing that's really helpful is to kind of get down a drum beat. So what I want you to do is you're just going to swipe through, and let's actually just take a second and swipe to see what all of our choices could possibly be. You see, you can add your voice, you could add strings, bass, guitar. But the one that I want you to look for is drummer. And you'll see this is the one that has that animated halo going around drummer. Drummer is super cool because it's actually kind of like an AI inspired instrument that is going to build the perfect beat for you, even if you have no sense of rhythm. So you'll see across the bottom there, you have a couple of choices. The one that I want you to tap on today is electronic. So go ahead and tap that. And now you can see this interface that already has your drum line at the top, but you see a lot of controls here on things that you can do. So if you see that character, Leah, I want you to tap on her for a second. And now, depending on how many sound packs you have on your device and how updated it is, you'll have lots of different choices here. So this is where what I want you to do is kind of go through, tap on different drummers. So you simply tap on their name. And then what I want you to do is take a second and tap play. Play is that triangle button at the top of your screen. And as you test out different drummers, you'll notice there are all of these yellow buttons and controls. So for example, on the left, you can slide that puck up and down to make a beat sound louder, more complex, super soft, really simple. And in addition to that, you can kind of tap on these instruments and turn them on and off to change your sound. And then you can also play with these sliders on the left and on the left to right and change your sound. And then if you decide after a minute that you don't like Ronnie, tap on that drummer face and choose another drummer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you build this drummer out now. And I'm just going to quick set a timer. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes to kind of just explore those sounds. So you have a minute left with those drummers. And the best part is as you add more parts, you can always go back and change it. Nothing is permanent. Okay, so hopefully you were able to find a drummer that you think is going to work with your project. Like I said, I'm going to leave mine with Ronnie. The only thing that I wanted to do was I love some of these extra sounds, so I'm going to bring that in and I'm going to pull it over. So what I want you to do now is, now that you have this drum beat down, we want to add some sounds to it because we're going to kind of like work in the music aspect. So underneath the date of your iPad in that top left-hand corner, you'll see a button. It's called the tracks button, and it kind of looks like a Lego or a brick wall. So can you tap on that for me? And you'll notice what that has done is it's actually showing you now the region of what you've recorded. It's gotten rid of being able to see the drummer. And you'll notice in the bottom, there is a plus button. So this is where we're going to start to build out our track and bring in some new instruments. So go ahead and tap the plus in the bottom left-hand corner. And that brings us back to the sound library. So again, I want you to swipe through. And from here, when you see the keyboard, I want you to stop. So there's a couple of different options here when you're in this instrument menu. And the one that we're going to play around with today is the Smart Piano. So the first thing that you'll notice when you tap on Smart Piano is it doesn't look like a traditional piano. And what it does is it provides you with what we call chord strips. And chord strips are these really great, super easy way for you to basically play an instrument that you might have never learned how to play or ever had taken lessons for. So what I want you to do is just take a second and tap some of those chord strips. You'll notice the gray portions are the low notes of a piano. And if you play the white sections of those strips, you get actual chords. So take a second and tap through those. And now what we're going to work on is learning a chord progression. So when we talk about chord progressions, we talk about in music, those are the chords that a songwriter or a band or a composer puts together in a specific order because it sounds really good. And we're going to learn a super popular chord progression today. It's called the 1-5-6-4. And it is used in like 90% of pop music. So if you listen to Taylor Swift, I think she uses this progression like 12 times. But if you go farther back into like classical music, the progression exists throughout that as well. And it's all based on 4 chords. So your job today is to learn 4 letters and to be able to tap them in the correct order. So the first chord that I want you to tap, and again, you can tap anywhere on this strip for now, but what would probably be super helpful is if you actually just tap where the letter name is. So the first chord I want you to tap is C. Then I want you to tap G. The next chord is the one that says AM. That stands for A minor. And the last chord is F. Now you'll notice when you tap on a chord and let go, the sound disappears. And that makes it really hard to get from one chord to the next. So there's this really awesome feature. Underneath that picture of the piano, you see something that says sustain. And that's like a little slide, and you'll see the lock button. Can you slide that to the right? And now go back and try playing those chords again. Play C. And when you let go, sound continues. G, A minor, and then F. So before we get into recording, before we even get to play around with cool sounds, we want to make sure that we're like really good at playing this progression. So there are a couple of tips and tricks that I'm going to offer you. So the first is we're going to count to 4, which is really easy, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll notice at the top of the screen, there's a ruler. That's our time ruler, and it's divided into sections all the way up through 8. And what we want to try and do is play a chord on each one of those numbers. So on the number 1, we would want to play the C. On the number 2, we'd want to play the G. On 3, the A minor. On 4, the F. And then we would just want to repeat that. So I'm going to quick demo this and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, the other thing that I want to do is I want something to help me keep like a really steady beat. And well, we already put down that drummer track. So when I tap play on my GarageBand screen, and again, just to practice my chords, I'm going to hit play and I'm going to tap my foot to the drummer and try to switch chords. So it's going to sound something like this. Now, I know that drummer doesn't really match with the piano, but that's okay. We want to practice with the piano before we switch sounds. Do you have any questions about that? Does it kind of make sense? So what I'm going to have you do is practice playing C, G, A to F, tapping anywhere on those chord strips. It sounds really cool if you tap a gray portion and a white portion at the same time. Just creates like a bigger sound. And again, you're going to practice that to your drum beat. So I'm going to set a timer again, just to have you kind of like go through and practice that. And for this one, I'm actually going to give you more time. We're going to practice for 4 minutes. And again, GarageBand has all these really great tools that's going to let us fix it if our rhythm isn't perfect. So go ahead and try practicing that chord progression. So there's about a minute left of practicing this chord progression before we come up with a super cool sound and we record it. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling a little comfortable with what that chord progression looks like. And now we're going to, before we get into recording it, we have to choose a sound and we have to talk about these autoplay patterns. So autoplay patterns in GarageBand, you'll notice there is a dial up there at the top that has 4 sets of numbers. And what these are autoplay patterns are really cool pre-recorded patterns that allow you to sound like you've been playing an instrument for years with the tap of a finger. So before we get into autoplay patterns, it's really important now that we're done our practice that we turn that sustain button off because we don't want all of the sounds to start to blur into each other. So you can just swipe that to the left and it turns off sustain. And now we can start talking about the autoplay patterns. So you'll notice on this dial, as soon as I go to 1, my view has suddenly shifted. And now the chord strip is segmented into 3 parts. If I tap the letter name, I get the entire strip. If I tap just the middle section, it's kind of like what I would get with my right hand. And if I tap the bottom section, it would be the lower notes, what I would get with my left hand. And all you do is simply tap them on and then tap it again to turn it off. So this is the tricky part of the day. What I want you to do is tap on the picture of the piano. And when you tap on that, excuse me, it brings you into the sound library of every possible instrument you might have. The easiest way for us to access those cool video game sounds is going to be to tap on the one that's above keyboards that says recently downloaded. And then if you swipe through those, I'm not sure how many your devices have listed, but you want to tap on the one that says 8-Bit Legends. And what that's done for you is it's filtered out all of the other sounds, and it's just going to let you have the 8-Bit Legends to choose from. So now you're just going to kind of, you can tap by sound, you can tap by name. I think this Crushed ARP sounds really cool, so I'm going to tap on it. You saw how that interface kind of changed for the instrument. And now I'm just going to play around and tap on some strips. And while I'm tapping on strips, I might be exploring different patterns. That was 3, so I might turn it to 4. I also might use what we call the transform pad, which allows you to slide around to change the sound. So again, I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to explore a sound that you might like, a pattern that you might like from a number, as well as maybe play around with some of these. Now, how do you get back to that menu? Super easy. Come up to where it says Crushed ARP, tap on that. it's going to bring you right back into how you filtered, and you can go ahead and tap and try a new sound. The sounds that are going to work best for this project are definitely going to be in those top menus that say arpeggiated. These are going to sound a little different. And of course, at the end, we're going to come into sound effects. So I would encourage you to stay in the top arpeggiated menu, but it's your creation. So it's really up to whatever you want to do. So I'm going to set one more timer on this just so you can kind of explore and come up with some sounds.
Hi,
Hi.
uh, this is Muhlenberg Community Library. We apologize for being late joiners. We're having some technical issues on, and then we can follow along from there.
So there's about a minute left. Okay, so hopefully you were able to come up with a pretty cool sound that you think is going to work for your project. Does anyone want to just unmute and name a sound that they went with? Okay. So I think I'm going to leave mine with this adventures in circuitry. I think it has like super fun sound. Sounds like it would be like a pretty easy game to play, right? If I'm imagining how I'm going to bring this music into a video game. So once you have your sound, we've already practiced the chord progression. So now it comes down to how we actually bring it all together and record. So
I found Epic Journal. I found a song called Rubber Band. I really like it.
oh yeah, awesome.
I like Fantasy Echoes, and I use Animated Pad. It actually sounds like a video game.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. Does anyone else want to tell us what they chose? Okay, so what I'm going to do is you'll notice I went with the adventures in circuitry, and on my transform pad that I can move around to all of these things. You cannot even imagine these could be like characters in your game, right? I'm actually going to stay on Sunny Day, and I do like autoplay pattern 4, so that's where I'm going to stay. Now, the first thing that I have to do is we talked about that ruler at the top of your screen, that time ruler that is set up for you to, someone chose Epic Journey. Awesome. That time ruler, remember how I said what we're trying to do is we want to tap a chord every time we see a number in that ruler. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to get the playhead, and that's the thing that kind of looks like home plate, all the way back to the beginning. So mine is currently hovering around 6, and I'm simply going to put my finger on it and drag it back to the beginning. So now I know that when I record, I'm recording right from the start. So there's a couple of other tips and tricks. And honestly, recording takes like a couple of tries to make sure that you get it right. The record button is that big red button at the top of the screen. And when I tap that button, GarageBand is going to give me a counting of 4. I'm going to hear and see a 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I know that it's time to play my progression. So I'm actually going to demo that whole process for you, and then we can talk about it before you try doing it yourselves. So the other thing you'll notice is as I'm recording, that ruler is going to turn red. And it's really important that I keep recording all the way through the red. And when I'm done recording, it's going to turn green. So I know that my chord progression is C, G, A, F. So now I want to try to do that while my drummer's playing, while I'm tapping my foot and switching on those numbers on the ruler. So the way I like to do it is I hit the record button, I tap my foot, and I think 1, 2, 3, 4, switch, 2, 3, 4, switch. And I'm going to call that out loud as I do this. So I'll hit record. And C, G, A, F. Back to C, G, A, F, and you'll see how my ruler went to green. Now there's one other thing that I actually want to do, because my drummer is so loud, it's really hard for me to hear my chords. So if you tap back on that Lego brick wall tracks button, and I can see how my first chord actually didn't even pick up. There's a little handle that I can open that up, and I'm just gonna actually pull my drummer volume. I'm gonna slide that, see that slider that's moving? I'm just gonna slide it down a little bit because it's honestly too loud for what I wanna do. And now what I can do to get back to that recording screen is I'm gonna tap that little piano icon. It's in the top left-hand corner. And that's gonna bring me back to record. Now, I had said I already missed my first beat, so I have to do it over again, which is really simple. So I simply tap the record button and I can do it over again. And let's say I got it perfect that time, then I'm done. You'll also notice there's this little backwards arrow. That is your best friend. That is the undo button. So if you thought you got your recording, but you didn't really get the recording, you can simply tap it and redo recording. So I'm going to give you some time to see if you can record that. Feel free to unmute if you have any questions about like, it's not working right, or it's too fast, or my drummer's too loud, or maybe you've changed your mind on the instrument. So I'm just gonna like not even put a timer on screen. I'm just gonna be here if you have any questions and give you a few minutes to see if you can record. If I can do this again, I just lost my screen share. So I don't want to interrupt if everyone's like getting amazing recordings done, but I just wanted to check in and see how it was going. So I'm going to say, let's spend one more minute on this. And then we'll talk about how we can add some pretty cool sound effects. So hopefully you were able to get your chord progression track laid down. We already had the drummer, so that was perfect. So the next thing we want to do, and I had kind of jumped ahead of on this with mine because it just, I couldn't hear without headphones properly. We want to talk about how we can adjust the tracks and balance it out before we kind of finish up this project. So what I'd love for you to do is, assuming you're still in this screen with the instrument interface and the green ruler at the top, I want you to go back up to that tracks button, the one that looks like a brick wall, and tap it. And now what you should see is you have your green region, which is the keyboard track that you laid down. And then you also have your drummer. Now, you could go in and continue adding instruments and follow that same chord progression. But what we're going to do, oh no, I think I just tapped the wrong button. Hold up. See if I can get this back. What we want to do is we want to talk about, actually, I'll just pull this one up. We want to talk about balancing out the sound now. So as I had mentioned, underneath those pictures of the instruments, if you follow down with your finger, you'll see this little gray line. And that's a handle that kind of opens up individual controls for your instruments. So what I want you to do is you're going to tap play and listen to what you created. And you're going to decide, should my keyboard be louder? Should it be quieter? Do I need to adjust that drummer? And you're going to kind of play around with those levels until you find something that you really like the way it sounds. If you want to hear a track by itself, you'll notice there are these other little icons. There's a speaker with a slash going through it. If I tap that, it mutes a track. And now all I can hear is my keyboard. Or let's say I have tons of tracks and I don't want to go through and mute every single one of them. If you tap that solo button, which are the headphones, now everything else is automatically muted and I can just listen to my keyboard. And those are super helpful controls to have, again, when you have lots of tracks built into your project. So hopefully you got a good balance on that. The next thing we should talk about is maybe your song is too slow, or maybe like mine, it's actually too fast. So if you come up to the upper right-hand corner, do you see that icon that looks like a gear, like a wheel? I want you to tap on that. This gives you lots of other additional controls for your project that impact every track that you create. And the one that I want to go to is tempo. So my tempo is currently at 160, and we can hear that that's pretty fast. So I'm going to tap on that number 160, and I'm going to hit the down arrows, and I'm going to bring it down to about 130. Yours might be really slow, in which case you want to bring it way up. So go ahead and explore the tempo settings. And then I can quick hit play to see if I like that. Yeah, I think that has a better feel for me. So I'm going to leave mine at 130. So the last thing that we're going to do today is we're going to, for this project, is we're going to bring in some cool sound effects. So you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, there is, it's called the loop button. It looks like a roller coaster. So what I'd love for you to do is tap on that. This brings you into the Apple Loops library. And the Apple Loops library has tons of royalty-free instruments, hooks, percussion parts, melodic lines, sound effects, you name it, everything that you can simply tap and drag into your project. But again, we want to filter because you can see there are 10,582 items in this library, and I want to be able to get to my video game sounds. So you'll see that there are a number of ways that you can search. You could search by instruments or genres or descriptors. If you knew the name of your loop, you could type it right into that search field, or you can go to my favorite, which is filter by. So go ahead and tap on filter by. And I want to filter just like I did when I was choosing my keyboards by sound packs. So I'll tap that first option. And the only sound pack that I want to see options for is 8-Bit Legends, and it should be at the top for you. So once you've tapped on that, you can tap anywhere to close that out. And then when you tap that loop button again, you'll notice all of the options are only from 8-Bit Legends. Now, this is a really cool interface and way to work. All you have to do is tap on one to listen to it. And when you find one you like, right, so you can scroll through, there's tons of choices. So when you find one you like, you simply drag it under your project. And you can add as many as you would like. And then you constantly want to go back and play your project to make sure what you're picking sounds good. So I'm looking for Final Battle. This sounds interesting. So that would be super cool, but I know it's actually not going to work with the progression that I already wrote. But that could sound really neat. So I'm also going to bring that one in. And then what's cool about these loops is you simply touch them and you can slide them to any place you want for them to happen in your project. So maybe you don't want this sound to happen until the second half of your piece. You could move it to the end, or maybe you want it to open in the beginning. So I would encourage you to see if you can find a loop for texture and a loop with a really cool sound effect, and see if you can bring that into your project. So those steps were to tap that roller coaster button, make sure you're filtering by sound packs, you're choosing 8-bit legends, and then you're just exploring what's available to you in the library.
Hey, Erica, we have a question from Evans City Library.
Sure.
We want to know how you would export the song or the sound as an MP3.
Oh, are you ready to do that already?
I don't know. Tom, are you ready to do that? He says almost. I think he's just preparing.
Okay, yeah, that is actually our last step. We're going to talk about how you
okay.
can export projects, but if you need me to jump to that now, I can do that as well while everyone else is still exploring.
Do you want to wait, Tom, until everyone? Yeah, he says he will wait, but thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
So I'm going to have you spend another minute in the Loops library. Honestly, you could be there all day. You can build an entire project just with loops. And I'm really hoping someone's going to want to share something that they've created. So let's say you have now created the absolute perfect piece and you are ready to, oh my goodness, I can't even get into my iPad. And you're ready to share what you've made. So the first thing that you want to do is in the upper left-hand corner, it's called the My Songs button. It looks like a folded piece of paper. You're going to go ahead and tap that button. And when you do that, your project is now automatically been saved into your library. But My Song 6 is not a very exciting title. So the first thing that I want you to do is if you press and hold it for a second, you'll get a pop-up menu. And from here, you'll see the option to rename. So I'm going to tap rename, and I'm going to call it morning video game sounds, because it's like 8 o'clock in California right now. Here we go. And then I simply tap done. And my song has been renamed. And this is really important because like you want to rename your projects so that you're able to find them for later. Now the easy part and the actual super cool part. So your project is named, you are ready to share it with the world. So once again, press and hold your renamed project. And you see on the third breakout menu, there's something called share. So go ahead and tap share. And you have a couple of choices here. If you wanted to send this to a friend to have your friend add their own tracks, you would share it as a project. If you just want to create it as a ringtone, you could share it as a ringtone. And you can always go back and share in multiple formats. But for today, we're actually going to choose song. And by default, our iPads will make it high quality, which is exactly what you want it to be. And then you can actually add in the My Info button, you can add in your name as the artist, the composer. You could give your album a name. So I'll leave it, I'm going to rename mine to be Erica. I'm going to rename mine to be the composer. And I'm going to call my album Video Game Sounds. And then there's this option to have a cover image. And this is really cool because then when you share your final project to friends or family and they have it on their device, that album cover will pop up when your song plays. So I'm going to go ahead and hit choose photo. And well, I don't have anything super exciting here, so I'm going to go with this bird. Just not exactly a video game thing, but that's okay. Love the way that bird looks. I'm going to slide it over a little bit so his beak isn't cut off. I'm going to hit done. Now I have artwork. I hit share. And now you'll have your sharing options. You could save it to files, which would be on device. You could, if messaging works on your iPad, you could send it through messages. You could AirDrop. For your purposes, I'm thinking, because these are like shared devices, I would probably save it to files. And then from files, you'll be able to share it with parents or to any other device. So you can see that when I hit save to files, it's currently exporting my song. I'm just going to put it on iPad. I'm going to hit save and okay. Well, anyway, I chose the wrong folder, but it'll work for you guys. And then it's saved. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I was wondering if anyone at any of the locations would want to share a project that was created.
Oh, okay, wait, I know.
Real quick, how did we change the cover for the song?
Oh, so in that option, when you were in that share menu and you could type your name, if you scroll down to the bottom, do you see the GarageBand icon? Here, I can share my screen.
Song. That's him. Choose. That's him.
All right, thank
So-
you.
Oh, you
We
found
got
it?
We got it. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
I'd love to hear how the Epic Journey project turned out.
All right, here's one of my kids from Carnegie Homestead.
Oh crap. Frick, frick.
Okay. Sorry, hold on. Dyson, calm down. Okay, are you ready? So you just hit play, Dyson.
Okay.
Did you hear it?
I heard it was cutting in and out a little bit, but it sounded super cool. What were the instruments that you chose for that?
I use
Yeah, sorry, I muted you. So he chose, his drummer was Dez. He chose the Epic Journey, and then his sound effect was Action Movie.
Very fun. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Does anyone else want to like unmute and share something they created?
I want to share from Klein Library, if that's okay. This is Carter's.
I don't know if that, I'm not sure I can hear.
Oh, no. Okay. Here. Man, I'm going to try to make it louder. Were you able to hear that?
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. Okay. Thanks.
You can always share these back with Josh too, and he would make sure that I got to hear them if anyone wanted to share. So the last thing, hopefully you were able to, and I have a resource that I did share earlier in the week, but I will flip back out that has step-by-step instructions with different instruments chosen, but so that you're able to facilitate this like completely. In fact, the Keynote deck is probably even a better experience than following a live demo. But it does have different instruments chosen for that. The only other thing that I wanted to show real quick, and this is especially when you, if you didn't want to explore with live loops, if you didn't want to explore with tracks and you really just wanted to get into what we call live loops, there is another option for music creation, which is really fun in GarageBand. And this one is super self-explanatory and kids get it instantly, quicker than adults often. So my screen is currently like this, and I want to create a new track. So I'm just going to tap the plus, that button that's up in that top. And that does bring me into my sound browser. But from here, instead of being on tracks at the top, I want to switch to live loops. And that's going to open up a grid. It's going to open up all of these different sound choices of pre-made grids for me, or I can go into new. So I'm going to tap that new. And this is a different way to think about music creation. So you'll notice that instead of having those long rectangular regions, I just have these tiny squares. And now what I can do is I can tap into a square. I can tap that loop button again, and I can pick different sounds that I want to bring in. Let me just add one more because I think this will all sound good. It's a different way to think about composition. So now I can tap on an individual cell to listen to it. Tap it to stop it. Or at the bottom of that row, I can tap the column and have them both play at the same time. It's a different way to think about composition. So you're obviously not using the touch instruments and going through chord progressions, but you're able to like filter through sounds to kind of create almost like a, like a soundscape style board. You can put them in different places to determine how you want to trigger different sounds. And it's also just a really fun way to explore, again, like creating that soundscape. If you chose to create a project this way, you would be able to then go through the same steps to export it, right? I would go back up to that sound, My Songs button, would tap it, and I'd be able to save my project. If I wanted to record what I created, I would hit my record button. And I can stop. And you can see when I tap the tracks button that I've created a recording that I can save. So it's a similar structure, just a slightly different interface. And yes, I will make sure that those links get shared. So that is essentially how you can use GarageBand to write your first song. So I don't know if there are any questions or things that you want to talk about. I am going to drop in the chat a link to the Write Your First Song project that you can find on the Apple Education community. You can actually access this project without signing in or being a member. And one of the other things that this project comes with is a keynote that you can download and then kind of customize for, maybe you only want to run a session talking about drummers, so you could delete all of the other slides. So it's super helpful. It's a really great resource.
Yeah, I was trying to look for my iPad, so I could follow along and do some GarageBand, but I don't know where my iPad is.
You can also always do it on your phone. So yeah, I guess we got through the material a little faster than you all normally do.
Yeah, well, I suppose we'll leave another 10 minutes for questions, and for everyone to kind of show what they have. I'll keep the Zoom recording live as long as people are here hanging out. But we'll let Erica drop out at 12. But obviously if you guys have any questions or if you need anything else, you can always feel free to reach out on email. But yeah, we'll just hang out and see what people want to share.
If you don't want to share, but you decided you really liked what you created, and you had saved it as a song, you could also go back in and do the save again and save it as the ringtone if you want to gift your parents with a fun ringtone for them to have. So Shannon, I see your message in the chat that you have students playing around with the audio recorder. Did you want to talk about something specifically? Did they find the voice filters? I can just quickly, I mean, I feel like students find things faster than adults do, but let me just pull up my device real quickly and just show you a couple of things. Back in this view of GarageBand at the top, I had showed you how you could tap the plus to start a new project. One of the amazing features that we have built in is you'll see that microphone. And that microphone is super cool because that's going to give me a very specific project template to work in that is designed for audio. So I'm just going to tap on that. And it does a couple of things. The first thing that you'll notice is my ruler is no longer divided just into sections of 8, but now it's configured for time, which is really helpful when you think about, like, I don't know, students might be creating a podcast, or they're just, you know, doing some type of fluency or just reading or creating audio stories. And they know that they only want to speak for 10 seconds. So this is really helpful. The other thing that this particular template does is that triangular button that's up in that nav bar, the metronome, it turns it off. So that way, when people start recording their voices, you don't have to listen to this constant click back and forth. So you'll notice that in the audio recorder, you have a choice of fun filters, or you can switch to those more professional sounds, which is studio. And if you tap that microphone there, you'll see that there are all sorts of choices for vocals, producer effects, a tuned voice, like you name it, it's there. Fun is super fun though. So if I go into fun, regardless of what filter I choose to record my voice, I can always swap it. And it's going to work the same as when we record smart instruments. So you'll tap that red record button. It'll give you a count in. You say what you want to say, and then you just hit the stop to stop recording. I'm going to go with robot because I happen to know that one sounds great. I'll hit the record button, and I'm just going to say, good morning. How are you doing today? I hit stop. I can hit play to listen back to that. Good morning. How are you doing today? Okay, maybe I don't want robot. Maybe I want chipmunk. I bring that playhead back. Choose chipmunk.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
And you can kind of just go through and explore different filters for your voice. Again, in studio, you could easily switch it to a more professional sound. I can be radio ready. Good morning. How are you doing today? And then just like we were moving around tracks with our instruments, if you tap that tracks button, you can move that track along. You can easily trim the silence by double tapping it, dragging tap it to get the yellow handle, then just kind of bring it up. Bring this one in. Now the silence is gone. And you can keep stacking and adding audio by simply adding a new track. I could find the microphone. So now I can add a new vocal track. If I were creating this kind of like podcast style, I could go in, I could bring in one of those fun loops again. So you can hear this one probably sounds good. So I can have my music start. Good morning. How are you doing today? You could kind of layer it like that. So there's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with this. The monster's really awesome. Bubble is super fun. And then again, you could, students could create a podcast and you could have like two different characters like speaking back and forth to each other using those filters. The alien one is pretty good. And then I guess the last thing to point out, when using voice, students could always bring their voice into the song that they created this morning. So if you wanted to record your voice into the project you created, the first thing you'd want to do is open this up and mute all of these instruments, because when you hit that record button for your voice, you only want to hear yourself and not all of that, or that music will play while your voice is, and it'll just be a big mess. So from here, with those tracks muted, I can go in, I can access voice recorder. And now I could add lyrics to any type of song that I created, or I could just do the voiceover with instructions, record it. So if I go back into fun, let's try the alien this time. And I'm just gonna kind of randomly talk here so we can see how this all comes together with my music. I'll hit stop. So now you can see how my audio is a part of this track. And I can go in and then start to unmute my other tracks and see how it all comes together. Obviously, that would require a lot of mixing, but you kind of get the idea. Did anyone perfect the perfect voice recording with a filter? Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks, Erica. The kids had a great time. We're gonna drop here at Evans City.
All right, thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys. Klein had a great time. Sorry you couldn't hear our sound. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it looks like it's getting close to 12:30. Seems like everyone's starting to dip out now. So I'll go ahead and wrap up the recording here.